Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to our channel. I'm laughing because Eliyahu is looking at me while I'm saying all this, and I feel self-conscious. Someone is looking at me. It's very funny. Eliyahu is fixing his car, but he's going to stop for a little while and he's going to have a chat to us about forgiveness. Eliyahu, the floor is yours. What have you got to tell us about forgiveness?
Well, forgiveness has different dimensions. Probably the thing we think about most often or first when we think about forgiveness is that if somebody did the wrong thing to me, and I'm asked to forgive him or her, then like they're getting off scot-free or something, like I took a loss, I was injured or damaged or something, and then I sort of give it all away and say, well, it's okay, it doesn't matter, I forgive this person. But it's a lot more complex than that. The first element that I think is important to think about in relation to forgiveness is that if you can think about any event where somebody is wrong as a transaction or as an event that has at least two actors. So in a sense, what happens between those two people is that whether there was a connection there before or not, there becomes a connection through that event that took place, through that negative thing. So I get my head bashed in, for example, by somebody that I knew or didn't know. So that event binds us together. There's a connection that happens between, and the elements of that connection might be anger or ill intent or whatever on the part of the perpetrator, and it might be anger or sadness or whatever on the part of the person who received this. Now, of course, there may be history behind that. Somebody may think that they had a reason to do it and so forth. But anyway, regardless, you end up with a connection. So maybe you can symbolize that connection by grabbing one hand with the other.
Yeah.
So there's a connection here. So there's a perpetrator and there's the victim.
Yeah.
Maybe more complex than that, but nevertheless, for simplicity, we'll say there's a perpetrator and a victim.
Okay.
You're connected now by that event.
Yeah.
And what happens if I refuse to forgive is that I continue to be connected to this
event or to this person.
This person and this event who has made my life miserable.
Yeah.
I can't get away from it. I'm stuck. I'm stuck there.
Yeah.
And the first, in a sense, perhaps the most important aspect of forgiveness is that I'm free. I can walk away. I don't have to be stuck there with this horrible event that took place for me. I can walk away.
Okay.
So the first, and I think most important aspect of forgiveness is that by forgiving, I free myself.
So forgiveness, actually, maybe we are using the word forgiveness a bit not right, because what you just said now is I free myself. So maybe we can use it as the first thing you need to do is free yourself from the situation. Because when we hear the word forgiveness, it's almost like you said in the beginning, we are, like we come out of it feeling beaten. We are forgiven. We have no choice but to forgive. Otherwise, we're stuck. But it's unfair. So then we come out of it feeling burdened by the unfairness of the situation. But maybe if we look at it as freeing ourselves from this, so freeing ourselves from the burden of So that's why it's more complex, because it's not just we don't forgive them in a sense. I don't have to forgive him. He's guilty forever, whatever, until he repents to himself or to ever. But I free myself from that, and therefore I'm letting go of the anger and the fear and the anxiety or whatever. So is there another word we can use? Like, is there something else we can use? Because the word, like I said, the forgiveness is different to maybe it's not different, maybe it's the same.
Well, as I was saying, forgiveness is
Complex.
more complicated than just a single element. So what I've described is one element of the whole thing that we call forgiveness. And you could call that aspect of it release, perhaps.
Okay.
Maybe there's a better word, I don't know. Anyway, that's one side of it, is you're doing yourself a favor by letting go and not staying there in this situation of pain and so forth.
Yeah.
The irony of that is that, in many situations, the perpetrator, walks away and forgets about it. Despite the fact that I'm hanging on, he or she is gone. They're living their life.
They're not holding on, but
they're not holding on.
It is a connection, even for them, even if they don't know it. They're still held by it.
Sure, there's some kind of connection, but they've moved on. They're living their life. So I continue to punish myself.
Yeah.
If I fail to take at least this first step in forgiveness.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's just one aspect of it. Another aspect of forgiveness is the transaction between these two people. Now, it's possible, it very often happens, that somebody wrongs another person and then genuinely feels sorry about what they've happened. Maybe they did it, in an impulse, or maybe it was premeditated or whatever. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe even if it was premeditated, maybe after having done it, they feel bad about it.
Yeah.
They feel bad about it themselves.
Yeah.
And say, oh, I don't want to be that kind of person or whatever. So when there's a situation where the other person doesn't just walk away and let that continue to be a part of who they are, but they feel bad about it, they want to fix things, they want to change things, it's much easier, obviously, in that kind of situation for the person who feels himself to be the victim to find their way toward some kind of forgiveness that's more than just releasing themselves, but actually saying, okay, it's not that I'm going to forget. I remember many things I've been through all my life. I'm not going to forget about it, but I'm willing to leave it behind, leave it in the past, not continue
to hold on to it,
holding on to it and making it part of my present every day, even though it happened 6 years ago or 2 years ago or yesterday or whenever. So it's much easier to move to that next level of forgiveness if there is repentance or a change of heart or a desire on the part of the other person to make
an
things
apology
right.
of some sort.
And in that case, you can achieve a full forgiveness where that person actually moves toward the victim and tries to repair the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, what that brings up then is a third aspect of forgiveness, which is something that in the Eastern world comes under the category of karma. And everything that we do, whether it's a good act or a bad act, those words are a little bit hard to define sometimes, but not good and bad. But nevertheless, whether it's an act that's seen as good or bad or harmful or hurtful or helpful or hopeful, when I forgive, and when the perpetrator changes their perspective and so forth, there's a karmic consequence to that.
Mm.
So when I forgive, I am ironically not just forgiving that person. I'm not just setting in motion something that reverberates through the universe that takes away the karmic load that person has for their act.
Mm.
But I'm also, in a sense, generating good karma for myself. So karma means there's many different ways to look at karma, but the foundational meaning of the word is consequences.
Yeah.
There are consequences.
Mm.
So there are consequences for good actions, and there are consequences for bad actions. And when I am capable of releasing myself and releasing the other person from this consequence, the karma is erased. The consequences are erased.
But then is it fair? I mean, as long as the two people come together, you're saying. But what?
Yes, that's the context that I'm
okay.
speaking in right now.
Fair enough. Sorry.
So the element that we think of first is this guy did a bad thing to me, and he's getting forgiven. He's getting off scot-free. But the other side of it is that I'm also forgiving myself.
Yeah.
In a sense, I'm putting the forgiveness in a karmic bank.
Yes.
And I become forgiven for my misdeeds.
Yeah.
Not,
It's like you're getting a brownie point.
Something like that.
Or in the bank,
words,
you've got extra.
I might not bash another person on the head, but I may very well do something else that's not very nice or worse in some way.
Yeah. And sometimes you don't know you did something, and so that becomes somehow it's gives you the way on the scale.
Yeah. So the fact that I'm forgiving has karmic consequences, not just for the perpetrator, but also for the one who does the forgiving. That is, I'm ensuring forgiveness for myself in the event that I'm doing that sort of thing, and perhaps I have done the same thing or worse in the past, or maybe I might in the future or something. So I think that the karmic element of it is where you begin to see that you're not just letting somebody off scot-free, but you're actually doing something for yourself at the same time. Now, all of that is, of course, much more difficult when the other person maintains their animosity or hostility and doesn't acknowledge that they've done anything wrong, doesn't
keep doing the same thing, or other things that are even worse.
They regard the situation as if you deserve what happened to you, or something of this sort. That makes it much more complicated, and you have less capacity to have any a consequential effect on the whole situation.
So what's your advice in a situation like that?
Well, you still have the opportunity, one, to free yourself, and you also have the opportunity in freeing yourself from that person's.
So actually walking away, separating yourself from the place.
And doing that, you're also generating your own forgiveness. Your own forgiveness for, improving your own karmic situation. Ultimately, it's that person's responsibility. I mean, that person has to confront their own karmic consequences at some point, somewhere.
The perpetrator.
Yeah.
What you say?
And I don't have control over that.
Yeah.
What I have control over is my side of the transaction.
Yeah.
But anyway, all of that to say that if you think about forgiveness in a fuller context, like we've described, these three different levels of it, that the aspect of it has to do with my own being
Holding on.
stuck
Yeah.
in a situation and releasing the other person, as well as the karmic aspect of it. I think it becomes a lot easier to forgive.
What about you're forgiving yourself, like as in you see yourself that you've been in a situation for 10 years, for 5 years, whatever. You look back, okay, you got out of the situation, but now you blame yourself. Hey, I just spent 5 years being in that. I could have walked away 4 years ago, 3 years ago. Hey, I could have walked away a minute after I've seen what the situation would be. What's your advice there for people?
Well, the moment of realization that you just mentioned,
Yeah.
that, hey, I could have, that's a moment of realization. And there's not a whole lot you can do before that moment of realization.
Yeah.
I mean, you can only act from a point of understanding or realization. So from that moment of realization, that's your opportunity to move forward. And okay, so you've wallowed there, holding on to something for 5 years. Okay, so it's something to learn from. And if you can experience it as something to learn from, then like all things in life. I mean, you learn from good situations and you learn from bad situations.
But you have a little saying that I remember you said a few times when we look at something in the past, and you had a way. I can't remember what you said exactly. I'm hoping that it'll come up in your mind of like something in the past is you had something in the past is in the past, or something that was. Because, I mean, it's easy to say, yeah, okay, I realize, the person realized that they've been stuck in that thing. They've been holding on to that. And many, some awful things and some not so awful things, but it doesn't matter because the guilt of themselves stays there. And then come the realization, I've been feeling guilty for 5 years. I've been, and now to say you let go is meaningless. How do I let go? How does a person let go? What do you do? How do you get out of this situation and forgive yourself for being in that place and letting go of that self-hate or anger that you didn't see it before and you didn't move before, and maybe because you didn't move before, your children suffered, and because you didn't do it before, I don't know, your mother suffered, or father, or somebody else suffered because of you. So it can go on and on and on and on. Your family, your people, your nation, I don't know. So what do you do? What is the thing that you think you could do, or a person could do, to get to that point of releasing it and not have to revisit it every time somebody says something?
Well, one possibility that comes with realization is then the possibility to act differently from that point on. So, and there are many different ways to act differently. One is, if there are other people involved, now your perspective is different, and you can talk. You have the opportunity. You have the choice to at least try to talk to whoever you feel may have been
damaged
by it as well, and then you are then approaching as the perpetrator, asking for forgiveness. So we come back into that same equation we were talking about just earlier. So there's that gives you an opportunity, one, to try to mend what's happened in the past, but it also gives you an opportunity, going back to the connection to go forward, not connected to that anymore, and say, okay, that's part of my past, and that's not who I am. Now I see things differently. I'm acting differently. I'm not going to be bound by that anymore.
Yeah.
And so, rather than wallow in the sorrow of 5 lost years or whatever, not that nothing else was accomplished during that time.
Yeah.
But how many years are there in the future that I can act differently? That's what the opportunity is.
I think I'm looking for something that we can tell the audience. Try, like, one of the things was what you did with your hand. That's very visualizing it. You can imagine it. Can you hold your hand again and all this? So you hold that and you imagine that one hand is the situation, the place, and the other hand is you, and now you're letting go of it. So that's sort of one thing. But that like there's things that you can do, which is to go in and ask forgiveness or do something good, or think, okay, if a person realized that in the past, because of his actions, there's all this money that's been lost, whatever. From now on, you might not be able to give the money back to those people. They might be dead by now. It's a long time ago. But you can become more charitable. You can, so then you're changing the whole feel of who you are by doing something about it, without doing it out of guilt all the time, but doing it out of understanding that you want to be a different person. Yes. Because if you keep doing it out of guilt, you're holding on to that guilt, and then we haven't achieved the release.
Exactly. Yeah.
We need to do something where we release it, and we are changing the way we are behaving now, the way we are. It's the same when if you go to work and somebody abused you at work all the time, and one day you're realizing it and you start feeling guilty and you beat yourself up. How come I didn't see it before? Why didn't I tell them off and all this? Well, from now on you can. You can actually stand up and say, I'm sorry, you don't talk to me like this anymore. And the guy's like, hey, I've been talking to you like this for 10 years. What changed? I changed. I'm not willing to accept that. I deserve more. And I think that's, doing something about it. Again, not out of guilt, but out of changing who we are, becoming better within ourselves. Anyway, I think we'll stop now because we've been talking for 20 minutes, and that's plenty, while we're looking at this amazing car. It's not very inspiring, maybe, or maybe it is. I don't know. Thank you so much for listening to us. And I am thinking on Sunday I will show you what I've done to let go of. I've done a few videos about it and put it together, so share something of my own. Thank you so much, Eliyahu. I really appreciate your talks. They are very, very in-depth and very interesting. And thank you, lovely audience, whoever you are, wherever you are. Please share, subscribe, like, tell other people about it, talk about it. Hopefully it helps you in your life. We love you lots. Bye for now.